Okay, here we go. All right. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Some of you from all different parts of the world. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are here for one cause, symbiotic culture. And my name is Shannon Procyse, and super honored and excited that each of you have come today to share your time with us and also to hopefully be inspired to be a part of this powerful shared vision of building community and bringing in the new way of doing business and the new way of living in community and collaborating and sharing in this place of abundance. And so what got me so excited, real quick, I'm going to just share my story of why I'm here is, we have a Love Your Neighbor community, and in our community, an individual shared something about what's going on in the food. And my heart just was, growing up with sometimes lack of food was like, oh my gosh, this is, this is something that I want to be a part of shifting, and had the opportunity of meeting Richard. And I know many of you know him and his amazing work. And I was like, this man, I believe, has the key to help solve some of what's going on. And so thank goodness reached out to him, and you guys, some of you will hear where he's at, but and what he's done and what he's accomplished as far as in India and here in the United States and this. And so thank you, Richard, so much, because I was like, he's still working on his book, he's still working on his manual, but he knows this stuff and he's done this stuff and he's lived this stuff. And so we're here today to get into, last week we had our first meeting and kind of setting the tone. And so I'll plug that replay in once Richard gets talking. And now we're really getting into some of the training that's here and that. So with that, if you guys are okay, I would love to give Richard a wonderful round of applause. You could do the sign language round of applause. Sorry, Richard. I like to have fun, so.
No worries. It's all good.
So our agenda, I'll go through the agenda. Can I do that? And then I pass the ball? Okay. Sorry, I'm so excited. I got a little off track. So we're going to talk about what is a symbiotic culture, what unites us. We're actually going to do a breakout room, so you get to meet some of these really cool people that are here, and there's some amazing people. You're going to learn about how to get involved, individual, street, neighborhood, and bioregional, what that looks like. And then we're going to dive right into a training. And again, I'll share some of the resources towards the end, how we're still connecting. I know we're working on the communication piece. We're hoping in the next couple of weeks to have some of that as we're growing. So with that, Richard, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah. First of all, I wanted to introduce everybody to a couple folks. What's happening is last Friday, I think the majority of the folks were from your community and your network, Shannon. And I've invited people from my network. So I just want everybody to kind of realize that we're kind of bringing together across networks, which is really cool. So wanted to introduce some folks briefly. My wife, Marta, if you wave.
Wait, let me put her on the screen. Hold on.
Yeah.
Shannon, when I said my wife, Marta, you waved, Shannon.
Oh, I know. No. Oh, no. I was waving to her. Sorry, I'm not Marta.
There we are.
So there we go. Marta, so, can you say hi?
Hello. Marta. Hi, everyone.
And then I also wanted to acknowledge that I'm on my screen anyway. Steve Behrman is here, who is an author, wrote the book Spontaneous Evolution with Bruce Lipton. And Steve's helping with helping me to write my book, and actually it's finished, but it's a manuscript right now. And then some other folks, let's see, we've got Adam from Salt Lake City, and we've got Carolyn from Montreal, Canada. Okay, so that's cool. And then actually at the bottom, we've got Martha, who just connected from Bern, Switzerland. So it's evening there. I think it's like 8 o'clock. Martha, did you, oh, there we go. Okay, so I think that's, and Jason Snyder is here. Jason helped me to, get the word out by agreeing to have me on his podcast. And his podcast is really cool. It's called Doomer Optimism. I mean, it's a perfect name. So there's Jason. Jason, you want to wave? There we go. Okay, and then there's Martha from Bern, Switzerland. Excellent. Now that we've done that, let's go back to the PowerPoint then, if you don't mind. Yeah, I think that's a great question. Why symbiotic culture? So maybe Shannon, are we able to mute everybody?
Break my
Yes.
glass. Yeah, because I keep sit up there. Yeah.
I keep hearing I'm hearing voices. Okay, there we go. Great. So why symbiotic culture? Well, for me, what I've noticed is that not just in the United States, but worldwide, the predominant culture is one of separation. So I think this is the main challenge, is that it's the belief that we actually are separate. Now, of course, we function individually and take care of our business and our lives and our, businesses and organizations. But I'm talking about a philosophic question that all you see is all you get. So it's a materialistic way of looking at things that separates everything into parts. So what I realized is, and in working with, as I mentioned, a lot of you last time when I was in Sri Lanka, they've really addressed that by finding a way for a community to come together where that's not the basis of it. It's not separation. It's actually love. It's unconditional. It's the higher aspect of love, where mutual benefit is natural, where we think that way, where we feel that in our hearts. And that's always struck me. So for the last 30 years, I've been working in community to overcome what I think is the central problem of humanity, which is this fragmentation, the separation between us. And I believe that what's happening also is that this fragmentation, this separation, it's also manufactured by political, religious, and business factions on the earth that want us to be divided. It makes us easier to govern, and it also makes us great consumers. But from my point of view, there's more to life, and many of you, there's more to life than just things. So why symbiotic culture is, I saw a real need to bring people together, to unify people and organizations in a local community around shared values and principles, which we're going to get into in a little bit. So symbiotic culture really is a way of living, and many of you are already doing this in your own realms of business, your community, your organization. What we're talking about is extending this ability to practice this kind of culture of mutual benefit to larger and larger collectives until this becomes the new norm. Of course, it's a long-term project, but we don't have to wait for the whole planet to change. We can start, and we can accelerate and extend that capacity for building symbiotic culture right now in our lives. So that's a very personal decision. So happy to be here. And if you don't mind having the next, throw in the next slide.
Yep, it's what unites us. And I'm going to go ahead, if it's okay, and just pull up the video, the image.
Sounds great. So if you can expand that a little bit, there we go, perfect. And then if we can go up or like down, I guess. Yeah, so, oh, thank you. So what we've discovered by understanding other community development movements around the world, primarily Sarvodia and Sri Lanka, how they work, we were looking for shared principles and values from which to have like an operating system for how we build community. It's really important today, and I know this because I used to run nonprofits in the secular kind of civic culture. there's a real challenge in introducing any kinds of principles or values for fear that somehow someone's going to impose one view, a religious or faith view on another. And we broke through that in a mainstream community in 2006 in Northern Nevada, in Reno. We had 100 leaders, and we asked everybody, what's the central problem of society and of our town at the time? And they said it was disunity. So we had small breakout groups, and we went through this process over months to identify what are shared principles and shared values that cross the spectrum from people who have religious faith, people who are spiritual but not religious, to people who are atheist. What can they all agree upon? And what we came up with are 8 shared principles, and without going in details, I'm just kind of sharing this. So the golden rule is primary in the sense that it reflects this embeddedness and mutual relationship that we have with each other in community. And people could consider this a practical aspect of civilization. The golden rule as a principle goes back thousands of years. It crosses every religious faith tradition, wisdom traditions, but it's something that's really solid, and it's the basis for intentional mutual benefit. And just continues, love thy neighbor, acknowledge something bigger than yourself. For many people, that's God. If you're in recovery groups, that would be a higher power. If you're in a bioregion, like a county level, then you could consider your bioregion as something bigger than yourself, that you're part of. All the living things, the human beings that live there, the culture, the watershed. That's something that's really important, to have something that's bigger than us that we're, feel part of, because that puts our ego in check. And it really allows us to embrace all life. The other thing about the shared principles, community-based local economy, it's really important that we've recognized that global problems that we see can't be solved globally. It has to be solved locally. And thank goodness, because that's something we can engage. We have agency there. We don't really have agency for these larger extended global system problems, but we can focus on where we live. And if you aggregate the energy within a community by bringing all the organizations and people together, what we envision is this happening in thousands of communities across the world that develop a natural, organic, bottom-up federation of communities that's transnational. Focus on what we have in common. That's an extremely important principle. So within symbiotic culture, we don't focus on conversations about politics or religion, because obviously there's an orchestrated kind of environment to divide us. And that's a standard method of operation of political leadership for 10,000 years. There's a trend of it. It's called divide and rule. And we don't have to do that. We don't have to, focus on that. So we're focusing on what we have in common, not what divides us. And we're building a connected organism, not a separate competing organization in the community. And we'll get more into that in a little bit. If you don't mind going down to the shared values, if you could expand this a little bit.
Yep.
So the 5 shared values also came from really looking at faith traditions, civic culture, looking at, even like integrity as the definition. It actually came from looking at it was the Louisiana State Troopers, part of their value statement of what integrity was. So you could see values are predominant. What we're saying is that in the symbiotic culture, we need to be able to bring these values up to greater awareness and strengthen our capacity through sharing and supporting each other to demonstrate these values. These values are aspects of consciousness that are powerful. And love as an operating principle is a force, is a power for unification. Like gravity. This is something that many of us know in our hearts. It's just that the culture that we live in really makes us sacrifice or feel like we have to sacrifice these values in order to survive, to compete, to try to dominate potentially others in the way we do business and these kinds of things. Well, we don't have to live that way. So by highlighting these values, it's really important. We can really identify them individually as part of building community. So they're not abstract. This isn't like an abstract course on values. This is really looking at the success of the Sarvodaya movement in Sri Lanka, which really is the world's most successful values-based community movement. They have a little different values system that they introduced, but it's the same principle. Let me go to the last slide, and then we'll move on to the next. I think I'm taking too much time. Oh, the last, I'm at the bottom of that.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries. I'm gonna speed it along. Thank you.
Oh, yes, right here. Got it.
So we take these principles and values and we put them in the context of building community. And over the last 40 years, from other community movements, our work in community, we've identified these sectors that people normally aggregate around. Some people are passionate about food and water, arts and culture, neighbors connecting with neighbors, education, housing, clean and healthy environment, helping people who are marginalized in society. This is how we've organized community. And what you'll learn in a little bit is that what we've done is we've learned how to build networks within each of these sectors by connecting existing organizations, both the leaders of nonprofits, for-profits, local government departments, to be able to connect them in a way that creates a distributed network that's simple and really straightforward. And you've got to, when we're going to get into one of these sectors, which is local food and water today. This was just the background. I think this is really important to ground our work in understanding these shared principles and values and this bigger picture. Let's go up to the next. Was that hard to read, everyone? I see some people like moving their heads close to the screen like this, and I've been there too. So we did that. Okay, so let's talk about symbiotic network building, which is part of symbiotic culture. Symbiotic culture has to do with, remember, we're talking about a local bioregional area. For the purpose of this discussion, we're talking about the area of a county. So that's the geographic area. Maybe in other countries they have different units, but could be several municipalities. It depends on your geography. So the first thing about network building is it's intentional and purposeful. It's a value-based network building a culture of mutual benefit. The cultural aspect of what we do is key. If we want to develop a new coherent culture of mutual benefit, we have to make that a priority as part of the concrete actions that we're doing. It's not a separate thing. It's not philosophy. It's a way of life. And all of us, to one extent or another, are already doing this. This is a matter of building a support system, focusing on a local community level. We're able to support each other in concrete ways while we build this culture of mutual benefit. We call that a symbiotic culture. Again, focus on what we share in common, not what divides us. All too often, especially online in forums where groups have channels to communicate, people are incessantly preoccupied with focusing on politics and religious beliefs and discussions. You've got to realize that social media has been weaponized. The algorithms underneath social media, the number one thing that social media wants for us in order for it to be successful in its advertising and selling us as a product is anger. They want us mad. They want us angry and fighting with each other because that makes more clicks and engagement. So we have to learn how to deal with that. And we're creating this symbiotic culture where that's not within the parameters of what we're doing. So you can be rest assured that you're safe in this space from any kind of debates like that. It's on purpose. So again, we're not creating a new organization. It's an organism. So it's a distributed network, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. It's not a formal legal structure or a new silo. It's very simple and straightforward. It is so hard in the beginning to see how this is even possible when we're so used to institutional change by nonprofits, by business, by corporations, by government. Once I share this with you, you will see that it's surprisingly simple and straightforward. We empower each other and the community. So it's a common awakening of ourselves and each other and our community, our street, our family, our neighborhood, our region. And it's natural. This is a natural way, and it relates to how ecosystems are in nature. And my background is in biology, so some of these ideas are in alignment with natural systems. Leadership's focused on giving first rather than receiving. I know many of you, maybe all of you, may already be looking at life this way. The challenge with the current culture is that we're led to believe that we need to take from others, like go conquest it, in order to satisfy our own needs, to survive, to thrive, and our families' needs, to take care of our family. We're led to believe that we have to compete in this battlefield. And I'm here to say, and many of you already know this, but leadership focus on giving and sharing actually leads to greater abundance. That's the paradox. Many of you know this. When you give and you don't have an expectation of immediately receiving it back, it normally happens, but that takes trust. It takes some faith in universe, whether you have a faith tradition, God, however you look at it. This is very important to have that sense that there is abundance, and that this approach, it actually works on a practical level. It's not just philosophy. It really works. And the last thing, it's probably maybe this is the most important for everybody. Most of us are already doing things in the world. We're professionals, perhaps. It doesn't take a whole lot of time. Now, if we were creating a new nonprofit organization, I mean, there's so many levels to that. I've founded 3 of them in my career, and it's a lot of work, like legal structures and governance and fundraising and staff and all these things. There's none of that in building a symbiotic network. So I think I'm going to leave it at that, and I think we're going to go to small group breakouts. Is that right?
Yes. Yes. So this is a great time to meet some of these amazing people that are here. So love to share your name, where you're from. It's not a time to do business pitches. We're really here to connect at that heart level. And we want you to share what resonated with you about what you heard so far. What do you connect with? What does what excites you? And when I put you in the group, it's important to find a timekeeper. We have about a minute each, so be real quick, clear, and concise. And also, when you're in the group, I know we had a couple people come in late, so please just take a few moments, because I may. Oh, sorry. Let me go ahead and I may move you around. So if you're in a waiting room or you're waiting here, just take a minute. Is there anybody not getting in a breakout room? If you're not, if you don't mind making a note in there real quick, because we want to make sure that everybody has friends when we get together. So we have a minute each. Pick a timekeeper, and please, timekeeper, sometimes I'll put a loud noise next to the phone so they can hear, or give them a little bit of a warning, and we'll go from there. So with that, you should have a room broke up, and some of you, just 1 minute, it's coming right now. And there we go. Okay, Dr. Bob, I'm putting you there. Carol, I'm putting you there. Perfect. And I'm going to pause the record. Okay, let's not
I
all
love
go at
that
once. Who
the
wants to
Brady
go?
Bunch. The Brady Bunch is that dates us, Shannon.
Oh, okay. Adam, do you know what the Brady Bunch is? You do, right?
Vaguely.
Okay. Oh,
I'm not a TV person anyway, so a lot of people talk to me about modern shows and I have no clue what they're talking about. So
okay.
I'm not the person to ask.
They just sold their house. Like last year, the Brady Bunch house was actually sold.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
wow. Okay. Anybody want to share? Maybe go ahead, Karen, and then Nan.
I would share because I wanted to say one thing briefly to Richard, but I'm so honored to get on with Steve and he's written the book with Bruce and everything's so harmonious, and Debbie and Martha and I were all prayer warriors, all, all on the same what would you call this, symbiotic mission. But in the Marigold Network that I've been working on, Richard, one of my pages says the Marigold Network will follow the Symbiotic Culture Lab with Richard Flyer's teachings, going from ecosystem to ecosystem, a new governance model. And I kind of want your permission to do that. I kind of submitted it that way. I'm giving you credit, but I would love for you to teach or to follow this method with the Marigold Network that I'm building. I want the culture to be based on this philosophy. So I don't know exactly how to do that to incorporate you in an offline subject, but I obviously see all these people in harmony, and I want to follow what you're teaching.
It's makes total sense what's happening. We're in a multi-threaded world.
Yeah.
In other words, there's thousands and millions of networks that all have their own flavor and beauty. And we're talking about is just gently creating these points of intersection, nodes, and connecting. And the idea, hopefully, is that a more positive cultural view will start being like a DNA that kind of people start to resonate, because it's natural. It's not something I didn't invent any of this. I just discovered what's already there, what's present. It's in all of us. So happy to support.
I may send you my 5-minute video and make sure you're okay with what I said about you, and then maybe how to move forward.
Fine. Sounds
Wonderful.
good.
Wonderful. Joy Grace and Nan, I didn't forget you. I just see a couple hands up. So I'll go. Joy Grace.
Hi, so I just wanted to acknowledge the two gentlemen that I got to meet, Jason Schneider on the Doom or Optimism on the podcast. So I think that, and I'm not sure, but I would guess that he might need other people at some point to talk on his podcast. And there's a lot of great people here. And then also Vic in upstate New York, who does stuff in housing and designing and building and offsite and a whole bunch of stuff. I thought it was genius. And I would like to make certain you'll accept my request on Signal so that we can all continue the conversation, because I think that's going to be a great place to exchange information and be kept up to date.
Beautiful.
Right?
Thank you, Joy Grace. And Signal, I'll put that link in there in a minute. That's just a temporary thing right now. We're working on, as you can imagine, this is a multi-dimensional communication, bi-regional, local. You'll know more if you're just here for the first time on that. But yes, Joy Grace, I will. And I'll add that in just a minute. Nan, and then Martha.
Thank you. I was in the chat and I just didn't quite get it done before the thing timed out, but we were talking about Echo Global Farms, which serves 190 countries, preventing starvation, delivering life-changing hunger solutions worldwide. And it is located in North Fort Myers, Florida. So echocommunities.org, and they send over 7,000 trial seed packets. This is a basic, they have resources in different parts of Africa and Southeast Asia. They do a training for drought tolerant and high nutritious foods for impoverished countries. Anyway, I hear an echo, but I don't know who's saying that. All I just want to offer is that I work with them quite a bit, and if there's connections that people would like to have, I'm happy to facilitate that.
Thank you, Nan. Martha.
Yeah, I had the pleasure to be in a
double flag.
Do you hear me? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to mute
Yeah.
everybody that's
Yeah,
not speaking.
I was in a breakup group with Dr. Bob and Samuel, and yeah, it's a pleasure to meet these amazing people, all of you that really want to take this concept that Richard has been working on for so many years, and I've been following for the last 10 years, and take it to the next step. And one thing we could agree on is how competitive all that we're doing in our community has become. Doesn't matter if it's for profit or non-profit. People compete, and we lost the kind of win-win culture. And I'm excited personally to see the process develop step by step and learn how we can all do it and be part of it. And I'm very excited about the aspect that it does not take much time. So I'm really, really excited to learn that. And yeah, really happy to be here. Thank you.
What do we say in our house? Many hands lighten the load. And that's really like, Richard, when you said that, it's like, that's what it is. Many hands lighten the load. And I'm distracted by the dog. I love dogs and babies. Sorry. No. I just, so Richard, I'm going to turn this back over to you. So wasn't that beautiful? There were so many things that I resonate with, and thank you, Marta, for sharing that. It's like that place of coming from love and coming from, as Richard says, that mutually beneficial relationship, and that way of being and the culture that we create. So Richard, I'll turn over to you and I'll get the slide ready again.
Sounds good. Here in Hawaii, the traditional culture has a name for it, and it's aloha, which actually translate as intentional mutual benefit. So there's traditional cultures also have this understanding. So, well, let's go discuss involvement and get more practical right now. Let's shift. It was great to ground the group within principles, values, and understanding this idea. So one way to get involved as an individual, definitely join the calls. We're planning on doing this weekly on Fridays. And that's a way to plug in and learn more. And at some point, we're going to develop some online social network communication channels to be able to participate as well. So today I'm going to talk briefly about the process of organizing a street, and then just give some pointers. And then we're going to jump right into the rest of the gathering on a first part of the training of building a local food system network. So let's go to the next slide. So this was an activity we did for many years in Northern Nevada. And as you can see, we called it Get to Know Your Neighbor Day. And it was basically not just a one-time party, like block parties, barbecues, potlucks at your home. It actually developed a movement of about 100 streets in our region. In fact, there wasn't a category in the Guinness Book, but we were actually up there, and Parade Magazine did a story in the United States on our effort. Next slide. So as you can see, it was 2007, this happened. And what's interesting about it is, yes, we're asking that you step up on your street, so you don't necessarily have to organize a full-on neighbor network of multiple streets, but we did. So we went to the whole regional level and built a network by connecting with organizations like Neighborhood Watch. There were a ton of community groups, and we all jointly launched this. Ultimately, it was each street that got involved. Next. And we really utilized, think about it, 2007 is like 4 years after Facebook, right? So it was like online was like a big deal back then. Next. And then this is an example of a gathering on a street in a community. Let's go to the next one. So here are the steps. I'm just going to review this quickly so we can go on to the main part of this gathering on a food system network. So this is the level of the street, 20 homes around you. So what you do is you would identify your street pot. ideally, you'd have 2 or 3 neighbors that you already know. Now, obviously, we all live in different configurations. We could be in a suburban type neighborhood. We can be in a townhouse development, apartment complex. So obviously, there are a lot of different kinds of situations. So what we did was the small group on a street just chooses the first monthly event, and it could either be like, as you see below, a potluck at your home if you're comfortable. Some people did like an ice cream social. People did a barbecue on their front lawn. We had people doing, they lived on a cul-de-sac and they just closed the street off and did a block party. Some people live in condo associations so that there's like a meeting hall. The idea is that it's real creative about bringing people together. So you select the date for the first event and you produce a one-page flyer. So we'll be able to have that material for you so that you can move forward if you choose to. We'll have that one-page flyer already designed so you can input your particulars. Then what you do is you would walk door to door. And here is a challenge for many people, which is, yes, many of us know a lot of our neighbors and we're comfortable with that. Well, some of us are not comfortable with knocking on the door of a neighbor who's a stranger. And the first time I did this myself, before it went public, I went to all of my neighbors. I was alone. It was just myself. I didn't have a team at the time. And I remember I got maybe the first year, I think I had like six individuals. I did it, then I started to do this annually. Then the next year had 20. And basically it just grew from there. And as a result of my own experience, I realized that, yeah, that is a challenge. I think it was the Dalai Lama said that we could jet around the world, flying around, but sometimes it's hard to get to know our neighbor. It's a really interesting comment, but this is part of that process of stepping up into providing this kind of focus on unifying your street. And that's just one level that you might consider doing. And then what happened as a result of starting the first year with doing these annual events, it actually led to it becoming an ongoing street level pod where people actually kept in touch with each other. They literally were able to identify needs and offers. So what's happening here is that there's a lot of isolation, especially after COVID, if you think about it. There could be seniors that are alone, that could be matched with teenage kids in a family down the street to help them get groceries, things like that. Just really natural things, walking dogs together. There was a case of ladies that were single mothers who formed a babysitting co-op. I mean, they went from like being strangers to forming a co-op to help take care of their kids. And then the other thing is sharing food. And that's a big deal. Backyard farming is really important. And we found that was a connector, like our neighbor across the street in Reno. Wow, she was really great at growing, leafy green vegetables. We were great at tomatoes. So we started doing some sharing that way. This is really important. And you'll see how this connects later on. But let's go to the next slide. There'll be time for Q&A. So let's go on. That was just an introduction. And we're going to focus the rest of the meeting on a local food system network. So now what we've done is we've taken scale. We've gone from the person, we've gone to the street level where you can operate at the level of street and building that culture. And now we're talking about a bioregion. Really, technically, it would be the level of a county. So in this case, with Shannon, we're going to talk about Brevard County, Florida. Let's go to the next. So what is a local food system network? It's a regenerative and market-based approach to increase the local farm, ranch, and value-added food production, like honey, and consumption of food. It maps and connects all the elements of a food system into a marketplace that's coherent, where every single organization in that area of food become connected and start sharing, so that the region becomes increasingly resilient and food self-sufficient. If ever there was a time for us to be concerned about supply chain, especially in food. It's now. And that's why this is going from being just a kind of a nice idea as it was a decade ago, 20 years ago, 5 years ago, even a year ago. Now it's going to be seen as necessary. So what we're part of could be just ahead of the curve, but we're going to be joined by thousands of communities that are sensing the same thing. Now on the bottom, it says inclusive of conventional and regenerative. I bring this up, it's real important. When we built our local food system network in 2005, there was a group of folks that wanted this exclusively, that the producers be organic only. And we chose not to do that. We had chose to have also conventional farmers that use different kinds of chemical fertilizers as well as regenerative. And I'm really thankful and glad that we did that. The reason is the first person that got involved was the oldest time farmer in Northern Nevada, family farm for 100 years. He was literally a monocrop farmer that sold wholesale outside of our region there in Northern Nevada. And he was using conventional means of fertilizer. And if we had excluded him because we had a particular view that we just organic farmers only, what I'm about to share would never have happened if we excluded him. By including him, he was a conventional farmer, didn't even have any connections to the local community. He ended up becoming the largest organic farmer in the region with tons of relationships with community supported agriculture, farm to table programs, and you name it. He became the poster child for it. And it just shows you that regenerative can also mean the ecosystem itself, all of the organizations together, not just a specific application of conventional fertilizer versus, say, regenerative organic ag. And I know that's a sticking point for many people. This is a strategic concern. These networks evolve from conventional to regenerative by learning from each other. And that process of learning can't happen if you make it an exclusive club. That's just what we found that works. Next. So what happens in the region, really quickly, I'll go through this, is there's a lot of catalytic effects. Top left, the city of Reno built a public farmers market because of all the interest. Community supported agriculture, as you see in the top right, where people have a direct subscription, families to local farmers. It went from a few CSAs to almost 20. The number of farmers involved in the food system went from 3 to like 150 over like a 5 to 10 year period. On the bottom left is a food cooperative that was building at the same time. It became the fastest growing, and it could still be the fastest growing food cooperative in the United States. It's in Reno. I know it's hard, might be hard to believe, but it's true. And then on the right, additional like farmers markets expanded. Next. Okay, so some of the principles of this kind of networking: open, accepting, and available. You're capable of having empathy for others. You actually enjoy connecting others, which would be really helpful. To be able to go beyond your own likes and dislikes is really important, because sometimes we're in silos where we might not like somebody else's political or religious beliefs. Those are irrelevant in this context. What's relevant is growing and consuming more local food over a period of time. It's a function. Whole system thinking. Let's go to next. I think we want to get into searching pretty soon. Okay, so how do you discover network clusters? So let's just share that infographic quickly. I'm going to show where we are. We got 9 minutes. So let's just share that first infographic. And okay, here we go. So you all should have access to this, and we'll make it available. It's really how you go from scattered clusters in one sector, in this case, food and water in a community. How do you go from scattered clusters to a coherent network? So the fact that you have scattered clusters, the first step is to do research. And we're going to do that and demonstrate it right now. I think we need to go we need to go on to that. So this is the first step of how to form a local food system network. And what I'm going to do is, could you pull up, if you want to use Google, yeah, use the Google, put up Brevard County, Florida, and the map. Yeah, let's go right to the
Okay.
map. Yep, let's go to the map. All right, now that's perfect. So as you can see, looks like, so it's on the coast, also known as Space Coast. There's Cape Canaveral. And it includes the large city of Melbourne. What I noticed about this is that we're focusing on this whole area of this county for a local food system network, looking at producers and consumers. What I noticed is that Orlando is a large city, and we'll get into this in a second. It's in Orange, I think it's Orange County, right, Shannon?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, so here's some questions, and it's region specific. Every region and bioregion like this is really unique in its assembly of its resources. So maybe you'll find that the level of county might not be enough. There might not be enough diversity of food production. Maybe you can do an adjacent county. It really depends. Right now we're focusing on Brevard. So let's do a Google search. I'm going to show you how to start mapping your food system. Are you ready?
Yes.
Let's do a search. In quotes, Brevard County, unquote, and then and local food system network. So the first thing to do is you really want to identify, is there already something like this in your county? Because if there is, you want to work with them and support them and help them. So let's go to, let's see, Brevard County. It's interesting, your search. So click on the first one. This is actually interesting. It shows you in Orlando, which is outside, it's the adjacent county. The city of Orlando, Florida has a local food systems program. So that is different than an actual network. Program means this municipality, Orlando, has some goals. They want to increase community garden plots. They want to increase farmers markets, food hubs, food distributors, and urban farms. So I want you to kind of start learning the lingo. Just because the city of Orlando has a page that says local food systems, that's not the same as creating an actual vibrant network. That's important. Let's go to the next on food and nutrition services. Let's keep going. No, go down. Brevard, yeah, right there, Brevard County Farm Bureau. Okay, so this is another data point. So if you go down and you'll see, oh, wow, you start, you document this in a spreadsheet. So if you're somebody who's a connector and wants to initiate this in your region, but you don't like spreadsheets, then you have to build your core team. So find somebody that can help you, who's good with spreadsheets or likes doing that kind of thing. Start identifying some of the players. Here's like Brevard County Farm Bureau. So that's what we're finding out here. So that
I'm going to add it to my list right now.
See, Shannon, you've been doing your homework. So Shannon has already been getting a spreadsheet of the connections she's making. And if this is daunting to anybody, if like this looks like a lot, then maybe just find somebody. Maybe find somebody that likes spreadsheets and believes in the idea. Okay, go back. Now
and
let's
I'm happy to share mine if somebody needs a template too.
Excellent. Now there was another one, which is, okay, so we did go to the food and nutrition services for the school district. I just saw it there. Let's see, where is that? Services for the Yeah, that one right there. For this one down. Let's see. No. Let's see. Let's go to the next page and maybe we'll find it. Go to the second page.
Okay, second page. Got it.
Okay, so now keep going. Here's one, community garden network of Brevard right there. Okay, so let me explain something that is just so, it's like the basis of this concept, and it is really powerful, which is this. If you did a search of community gardens and you had a list of 10 of them, let's say you had a list of 10 community gardens, well, then you'd have 10 people and organizations to connect or contact. But if you go back to the top here, it's better sometimes to find a community garden network. See, that's a cluster. So that's a subsector of the food system, and they've already done it. They've already connected. So you have more leverage as a sector cluster, which is a community garden network. It's a cluster of organizations rather than trying to get each individual community garden on board. We had the same thing happen in Reno, where we had 20 farmers markets, but there was a nonprofit that actually was a connector of every single one of them. So instead of inviting 20 leaders of farmers markets or community gardens to the first meeting, we were able to find the person that already had networked them, and they come to the meeting, and it makes this process more manageable, because the goal is to find maybe 5 key super connectors from different clusters. By clusters, again, those are already existing connectors of organizations like this. Perfect example. So this is a community garden network. Okay, if you want to go back left.
Okay, sorry. I'm gonna
Or
grab
back,
this
well,
one
no,
too.
it's okay, just back one.
Yep.
And then let me see, there's, keep going down. There was Brevard County Schools. Oh, there we go, ACCESS down. There's the food assistance program. And this is the governmental aspect. Remember, while government can be challenging, it's only challenging if they're directing something. Bureaucracies, even if it's city or county level, they just really don't know how to do this. But we should still involve them as partners, because we're the ones that are helping to initiate it. It's a people's movement. The government and their departments are key, like anything else. It's just that they're not in a position to direct it. Let's go back, or to the last one, to the search. So let's do another search. Let's do Brevard County and local food system only. Forget, just remove network, the word network from the end. Yeah, there you go. And then let's do a search there. So changing your search algorithm sometimes gives you new results. See, there's like local food systems came up again below, City of Orlando. There's here's a,
This is a college.
yeah, so local colleges sometimes are associated with ag extension programs. So agriculture extension and farm bureaus are connected to governmental divisions that have the capacity to create just rapid connection. There's the Brevard County Farm Bureau there. There's information on Florida Ag, its overview and stats. Here's the federal level, U.S. Department of Agriculture. We had USDA folks involved. And a lot of times they're great. These universities, government, and these profiles by U.S. Department of Agriculture, you'll find a ton of information. It's like a breadcrumb trail that you're on. You're trying to first identify and map the assets. So I think in the interest of time, I guess you get the idea. The other kinds of things that you'd want to search for would be like restaurant associations. So again, you want to find out, are there existing farmers market associations and networks? Are there community garden networks already? Are there farmer networks and hubs already? Are there food co-ops? Any kinds of organizations that are already networked. And then you put them in a spreadsheet like Shannon showed. And then we're not going to do that today. But the next step is to figure out, how do you take, say, 50 different data points, you know, like organizations, farms, and projects. How do you actually then figure out how to put them together to know who to contact, to invite to the first meeting, to explore with them the building of a local food system network? So let's go on to Q&A, I think. Let's go. I think that's enough for today.
Awesome. Thank you, Richard, so much. I'm so grateful. We had one more search strategies. Should I just take that screen up real quick so you guys
Yeah,
can
let's
get a
just go back to
screenshot?
if we could go back to the agenda PowerPoint.
Yeah, so this
Yeah,
is the
yeah.
last
So
point here.
yeah, that's basically it. You're looking also, next time we'll get into this. You not only want highly leveraged existing people, leaders in a community, like somebody that's, you know, has already created a network of community gardens or farmers, you want them to have the quality that they can collaborate, so that's important. And we're looking for both producers and consumers. And then I'm sorry, I should have done that first, but that's okay. Let's go to Q&A. And anybody have any questions?
Thank you. I see Jason's going to leave. Everybody listen to Jason's podcast and that interview with Richard. It is really awesome.
Thank you.
Q&A, if you want to raise your hand, Jerry.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I wanted to go back to what you said, Richard, about being comfortable knocking on your neighbor's doors. And some people are very uncomfortable with that, and some people are very uncomfortable with having a stranger knock on their door. So something that I was thinking about as a solution to both sides of that problem is everybody has a fire company, fire station near them. Fire companies are already in a volunteer frame of mind and community service frame of mind, and also have the connections to the people that live in their zone. So what I was thinking about doing was going to my local fire company and using them as a hub, explaining to them what we were trying to do, and ask them if we can use them as the connector, communicator for people in the location. Just the thought.
I think that's a great idea. This is all about everybody's unique situation. Some people are comfortable with having people over at their home. Some people aren't. And some people did use community spaces like you suggest. So that's a great thing to put into our toolkit. Yep. To give people a wide range of possibilities so that they can choose from among those. And I think that's great. Let's just add that to our list of possibilities.
We will. And I just want, go ahead, Richard.
I'm just thinking thank you for that, Jerry. If anybody had any questions also about the local food system, that was one focus that we had here today. And I wanted to make sure we got some of those questions.
Okay, perfect. And then I just wanted to set the tone. I know some of you, it's the top of the hour if you need to go. Thank you so much for being here. This is why we're here, because as Richard said, this is unique to everybody. And so we get to come here and collaborate and pick his brain and learn from each other. And so keep coming back on Fridays, 2:00. Please invite your friends, join the signal. There's actually a form in there and I'll post it again. Fill out that form so we have your email and your contact information. So as we're building this, we're kind of, the plane is flying, but we're still building it as we go. And so this way, while we're flying, we can make sure we keep you in the loop on all of those pieces that are happening. So Richard, we're going to stay around for a little bit longer because we want to make sure we get all the questions answered. And Carol, I know you were first and then Steve.
So I'm having an event on the 12th, a networking event, and the Chicago LinkedIn group. We have 115,000 members. And do we have any brochures or a flyer or something I can communicate with about this?
To invite on Friday, I'll work on that and get you some, Carol.
Yeah, it'll be the 12th.
Okay.
It's a Monday. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Excellent.
Steve?
Yeah, hi. I'm responding to Jerry's idea. In my little neighborhood here in Berkeley, about 4 months ago, there was a flyer in our mailbox from our neighbors saying we're having a wedding. There's going to be some music. We wanted to let everybody know that we're going to be making noise between 5 and 6 p.m. on Sunday. And it was really a great way to communicate informally information. And then when they had an outdoor backyard concert, they did the same thing. And they invited the neighbors to come to their backyard concert, which turned out to be a fabulous event. And so their gentle way of knocking on the door was putting a flyer in our mailbox. So that's like an initial thing. So if you don't want to do anything about it, you don't have to. You don't have to answer your door, but there's you have a way to respond. It's whoever is coordinating in the neighborhood. And that way, if you have mailboxes, you can put information in, then that's a gentle way of knocking on the door.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'm going to get in a question before we're done here, but I know that who else had a hand up? Thank you. Oh, Debbie. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, I went into a restaurant last night and I had forgotten about this. A lot of the restaurants became grocery stores and supplied toilet paper and paper towels to their communities. So they're a huge resource right now. I know Long Doggers did it and Ruby Tuesdays did it. I know a bunch of other restaurants did that, where they supplied their local community with the needs because they couldn't serve the food. So it's just another avenue.
Oh,
Beautiful. Thank you. And my question, I know Karen's going to add something, is Richard, I'm going to ask you about my spreadsheet, if we can look at it real quick before we go, just so that we can,
sure.
you can kind of say, hey, Shannon, this is the right direction. No, not this. I know that was the first thing we looked at, was the restaurant association. But Karen, you had a question?
I have a Nextdoor app and I'm in 2 neighborhoods with Nextdoor app, and I'm in about 4 neighborhoods on Facebook groups. So, you know, you can look for neighborhoods. You can go on Facebook and look for the neighborhood group, and they do communicate about everything. And I'm in an interesting situation where I'm between like 4 neighborhoods, and I'm in all of them.
Oh, that's awesome.
Great.
Awesome. And I know that's one of the things that we're working on building also. Somebody is asking about the form. So I just dropped in the form. Please, if you've already filled this out before, we don't need it again, but this is what we have currently to stay connected. It does ask about some of your gifts and some of the things that you're interested in. You can also put in, you know, if you want us to follow up with you on anything. So please take a moment to fill that out. Any other questions before I get to my spreadsheet? Richard, I've been waiting to share this with you. Debbie and I have been working, you know, and the team on this.
Oh my gosh,
okay,
all right.
let's go.
It's alive. It's alive.
It's alive. Yeah. And I love what you shared, because it really opened up what was there. And so I'm hoping, Richard, on the next call, can we talk a little bit about the conversation to have with some of these people too? Will you be able to guide us with that next week for a moment?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So
Yeah.
this is what we have. We just did, you know, company association, name, first name, some of the information as far as notes and what we found out about them. So we don't have a local association, but we do have a state association that we found.
Yep.
And we have a lot of farms, and we have some pretty big markets and stuff here. So I will go back and add what you add, but anything else that you see on here that maybe we're missing in the spreadsheet or we need to consider also in the search?
Yep. So just one of the general things is you want to take data like this, like separate individual organizations, and start clustering them. So in other words,
okay.
So you want to create categories. So, you know, obviously you'd want to have restaurants. You'd want to have
that's it. Okay,
restaurants
so
they're consumers. So just think of it as producers, farms, ranches, value-added producers, like value-added as in producing honey. So you'd have producers and consumers. Producers, again, farmers, ranchers, and then value-added.
Farmers and ranchers together, or is that a different
separate?
one?
They're separate.
Farmers, they are, okay.
Yeah, ranchers, value-added producers, so value-added, and then consumers. By consumers, I'm not talking about individual people like us. I'm talking about organizational consumers. So we're talking about restaurants.
Is restaurants a different one?
No, that's underneath. They're a consumer.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, they're a consumer. They're consuming the production that's happening in your county.
Oh, so there are who, like the farms and ranchers might be.
Consumers organization. Yeah. So basically it would just be a subcategory of consumers, organizational consumers. So you've got, you got restaurants, you've got restaurants, farmers markets, farmers markets.
Okay.
Yeah, just go guys one at a time, one line at a time. So farmers markets, then you have grocers.
Okay.
Then you've got like food co-op, food cooperative. then you have like institutional buying. Who's buying food? Like, you know, we had our
Hotels?
yeah, hotels. And that's a subcategory. You got hotels, you got schools, you've got Brevard County, the school system, the public school system is getting food somewhere. I'm talking about the purchasing agent. So that'd be like the purchasing agent of these large institutions. So it'd be schools, it'd be hotels. Then we're also talking about, so we've got farmers markets, grocers, food co-op, institutional buying. Then you also have other kinds of networks. So then, yep. Okay, Martha's just said hospitals.
Oh,
Hospitals.
is that under institutional buying probably?
It
right?
is, it's a subcategory, schools,
Okay.
hotel, hospitals. You're simply making these connections happening. You're building this basis for a food system, a network, and eventually it'll become a marketplace. The idea is that you're helping connect these organizations that start doing business together. If they do business together, they're going to start increasing their productive capacity. That's how you can use a market system to encourage greater food production locally.
Can you talk about this one again real quick so I have some notes
value
here?
added, that would be like people taking, you know, that somebody is a beekeeper and somebody bought, you know, is
Oh, so like we have a
generating honey,
mushroom
value
grower.
added. It would be taking ingredients, food related ingredients, and creating a product. It's value added. So somebody could be a farmer like in Hawaii of turmeric, and somebody could go and work with that farmer, buy the turmeric raw, then dehydrate it, turn it into a powder, and create a nutritional supplement product. That's a value added product.
Okay.
Yeah, so it'd be like all sorts of things like vitamins, or you know, honey, could be, you know, herbs.
Okay,
It could also be like as ingredients. Some particular company is producing, they're manufacturing food products.
Bye, Steve.
And they mix it, they mix them together and they use those local ingredients. All, yeah, so it's all, what I can do is, I wish I had it. I'm gonna see if while you're doing that, I'm gonna see if I could share my screen. Hold on.
Yep, let me stop sharing. This was super helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, let me just, let me see something. I'm gonna share with you if I could find it.
Yep, local jams, salsas, pasta sauces. Yeah, we have a ton of those. Okay.
So here is, let me share something for everybody. I'll be right there. 1 second. Let's see.
And I'm not sure if I shared last week's replay. Let me just put that up real quick.
You don't know if you did?
There we go. Well, I did, but I'm not sure if I know sometimes people come in late. There it is.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me just get
And then Richard, we're going to try to get this done in 60 days. Is that the challenge, or should we just stretch it to
Yeah,
90
so
to be kind of?
well, 60 to 90. The research,
Okay, good.
Yeah, the research phase that you're starting now is probably 30 days.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's a 30-day process. Okay, what I want to do right now is I'm going to share my screen. Do I have permission to do that?
Yeah, you're co-host.
Okay, let's see. What I'm going to do is, everybody, I'm going to share my screen to show something. So,
oh,
okay, so let's look at a food system, and I had it in my PowerPoint, but I didn't share
and
it.
you have the hashtags. Oh, wow.
So let's look down right here. Is I don't know if everybody can read this, but at 2.21, I'm in the middle of the page. These are all of the subsectors in the food system. So community and school gardens, that's self-explanatory. Community supported agriculture, which is subscription farming, connecting families that buy subscriptions in local farms. Composting is a subcategory. Farmers markets, food production, There's canning and meat processing. That's happening locally. A lot of us are doing that, but it's as part of the food system. Food security and storage. There's a ton of groups that do foraging and gleaning. There are like gleaning groups where there's a bunch of fruit trees, say, in your county, and it's like all of a sudden they're dumping a ton of fruit. A lot of it goes to waste. There are like groups that come in and they collect the fruit and give it away and share. So that's called gleaning. Hydroponics, aquaponics is a subsector. Land sharing for food production, local food and restaurants. There's marketing. There could be marketing groups in local food. Their subsets would be permaculture and regenerative ag. So there's raising livestock. There's preparing healthy food. There are groups that just are all about nutrition and food preparation. Local food banks. We didn't even mention the issue of food insecurity, hunger, and backyard farming. So those are some sections. I can share that in the chat. So this kind of subsector list, it's I'm gonna unshare right now. So what's amazing is in Sarvodia in the 60s when they started and they developed a list of these sectors and food was included. I kid you not, I think half the people there were not even literate at that time. But in the 60s, they took people who were like some pre-literate who literally were able to take a food sector and then identify like 50 subcategories. Like we're talking about people in villages who are literally doing these mind mapping exercises. And what it shows is that this is really feasible and it's natural. And it's a matter of kind of getting into this vibe of seeing this system and identifying the components like that. So
Debbie added food truck because that's
food
big
trucks.
right now. So many people are buying food trucks.
There you go. So what this is really about is building this open, transparent system in the food area where all the food related organizations, businesses, local governments can connect and find out about each other. Once that process of connecting happens, then what would happen would be natural synergies emerge. Once the people get to know each other, this could also be called building your trust network. People build trust. They start building these relationships. Remember, it's also building a marketplace. Because to go from where we're at now, where in many counties in the United States and around the world, we are dependent on external inputs to feed ourselves. Like Hawaii depends on 90% imports. What's going to happen if there's a breakdown in the boats and the planes? There's like, you know, maybe there's less diesel available. What the heck are we going to do? So the answer is you got to get all hands on deck first. Yes. You have to be building a trust network. So your role is to provide that space because they can't do it themselves because they're already busy. These are busy professionals involved in the food system. They don't know how to do it. So you're providing a new function to connect them. Once they're connected, the next step after you've built the network is for an internal audit. What are we importing? What are we exporting? So then because the system that we've been a part of for 70 years, this global economic order was based on the free exchange globally of goods and services. And we've gotten used to it. We've gotten used to this kind of thing where we say, well, you know, I get my cherries from Chile, I get my coffee from Colombia, I get my whatever. Those days are done. We're going to have to rationally, systematically, once we get our food system together, figure out what can we produce. You know, can we grow hothouse tomatoes in a greenhouse? If that's the case, then you've already built the trust network. And then naturally, what will happen is somebody might say, I'd like to do that business. Capital will flow into that because now capital sources are exposed. And it's a collaborative effort. It may be a private enterprise that'll be emerging, could be co-ops, could be collectives. We're not attached to the economic form. We're attached to growing more food locally and consuming more food locally in a systematic way and helping the community to get to that place. And I don't know the answer as to how much can be produced more locally in Brevard County or any county. That's not the point. Point is to start on this journey. And, you know, we still depend on the vertically integrated global system. This is not a localization effort that's opposed to the existing system. How can you be opposed to reality? We live in a system where, you know, we've got Costco and we got Walmart and all those kinds of things. That's reality. It's not, this is not a purist thing, but we're going in this direction ourselves to see, you know, what we can do. And it's not against the old system. It's for a new one. I hope that was helpful.
That was awesome. Thank you so much, Richard. I know we went way over, and I'm so grateful for your time. Please connect in the Signal if there's questions and stuff right now. That is the place that we want to, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to be connecting. And again, we're keeping it, as we said, on this place of what we want and what we want to create. And as you're sharing those questions, we, you know, the idea of these Fridays is we keep coming back and we're on this journey together. So whether you're an individual and you just want to be a part of helping get this mission out there, and you want to be one of the ambassadors for Symbiotic Culture Lab, or you want to start the neighbor, you know, your neighbor group, or you're into this, you know, let's make a bigger impact, then please let us know. We're here to support and grow. And I see a couple of hands. Richard, do you have
just one last thing? Yeah, I think as this seems to be emerging, if those of us that are moving forward, and I know my wife Marta and I are moving forward in Oahu to build a food system network, and we've already started working with our neighbors. We're hopefully developing communication channels where we can start sharing what we're doing. So these meetings can be more proactive and more like reporting, I think. Like, you know, hey, we're in Oahu, this is what we did, this is what we learned. And I believe then that that might be one of the aspects of how these Friday meetings emerge.
Beautiful. So with that, I see a couple questions. If you guys don't mind putting them in Signal, I see a funding question, things like that. We'd love to, if it's okay, Richard, wrap it up, and then we'll,
let's
yeah. And so appreciate you guys. Can we give Richard one more round of applause for and all of you guys for being here. Thank you for what you do, because if you're here, we know that you're doing some great work in the world. We're magnets for individuals that want to make a difference. So thank you. And Carolyn, it was great meeting you yesterday. So excited to work. And Marta, oh my gosh.
Oh, and then there's Martha from Switzerland, from Bern, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not used to hearing another Marta. People here say Marta because the TH is difficult. So Marta, it's nice to meet you. I'm usually the only one with that sort of an old lady's name. Everybody has a Tanta Marta somewhere that never got married, who makes really good chocolate cake.
I've had Tanta Martas.
Yeah, wonderful.
That's
so nice
beautiful.
to meet you all. Thank you. This was amazing. I'm going to go to bed and dream now.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys so much. Have a good day.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Great weekend.
Happy Labor Day. Thank you.